Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast, Taking Care of Business, today with Justin Knibbe, who is Director, Master of Management, and Assistant Professor, Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the Haskayne School of Business at the University of Calgary. Thanks for joining us today, Justin.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And you got all the details there were correct. So
Good, great. That's a long title. Yeah. Let me just start by asking you about some new research that Haskayne has put out regarding career change and people pivoting and Canadians' attitudes toward career change. Now, the number one factor is financial growth. 73% felt that financial growth was the biggest reason for career change. Could you talk a little bit about that and why that's happening?
yeah, it's quite interesting. So we're finding a few different trends coming out of that. I think, in my opinion, in a bunch of our opinions here, the reason you're seeing the financial growth mainly is that a lot of Calgarians are struggling. And I know that's kind of the same across Canada. Grocery prices are up, gas prices are up. There's a lot of fear and anxiety around that.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting about this study is that the close second was work-life balance, which almost, when you look at the two of them, it kind of seems counterintuitive. So we're looking at a motivation for change because, maybe we're not making enough money or we feel we need more money. But our second motivator is actually we're not happy with where our work-life balance is. And this was quite surprising to me, actually, because looking back, often you would see things like, I'm not enjoying my job, or I'd like to try something else, or I don't like my boss. But in this case, we found it quite surprising.
Now, what's interesting, just throwing out some numbers there, although nationally it was 73% financial growth, 80% of Calgarians. Does that mean that we're feeling it harder here than elsewhere?
I don't know that we're feeling it harder, but I think that there's definitely a lot of angst in Alberta. There's a lot of, like, we're a very entrepreneurial city. There's a lot of very cool things happening that the university is really lucky to be a part of and a hub in. But with that change, there's a lot of angst around some of the jobs we've always had around here, maybe the oil field type jobs, careers like that. So there's a lot of worry about, my standard of living. If I'm being forced to change, is that going to drop? So Calgary, Alberta, all of Canada, everyone's feeling that. But in Calgary, we have a election coming up. There's just a lot of angst going on right now in the city.
And when you mentioned the work-life balance, that was 66% have felt that way. Now, what I'm curious, when it comes to career change, the research, what did it find in terms of the emotions that are associated with career change? I imagine, there's got to be emotions that more tend towards the negative side, right?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So if it's okay, quickly, I'll just comment on the work-life balance.
Yeah.
Because this, to me, out of this study that we did, was the most surprising part of it. Generally, again, we go back to, why do you want to do a career? I'd like to learn a new skill. Maybe I'm not being used to my full potential. I don't like my job. But this work-life balance, the climbing number is quite new. And what we're seeing is it might be a repercussion of COVID, but it's definitely a repercussion of this work from home that we're getting used to. And I think a lot of people are going, hey, I don't know that I want to be married to my job the way I was taught to be, or the way my parents were, or the way we've always done it, where I'm going to work in the same career forever, then I'll get to retire. Coming out of this change that's happening, I think people are really going, what do I want to do with the next 20, 30, 40 years? And so what are the financial means I need to do that, whether it's retire younger, whether it's buy a vacation home, whether it's work half a year and take the other half off. But the other side of that is, do I want to work 8, 10, 12 hours a day, which a lot of new graduates are still going, oh, we still have to do that. I graduated and they still want me to work that much for the first little while. But adults and older people are going like, I don't want to do it. I want to be home. I want to golf. I want to go out with my partner, my kids. my pets, and so there's a lot of different motivations here I find really interesting.
Yeah.
But sorry, Mario, back to your first question.
That's great.
The emotions. So I think if we can all imagine when it comes to change, the first emotions that come to mind, I don't care if it's you're buying a new house, you're dating someone new, you find out you're pregnant, you get a new pet, there's fear. There's always fear with change. And it's been very true in my life. Sure. And this research shows the same. So across all Canadians, I know you have the numbers. Uncertainty was number one in Canada. 50% of us, and that's why we would hesitate to make that change. Yeah. We feel uncertain, we feel hesitant, and then anxiety is right there, and they all kind of intertwine. That stress of, well, is the grass greener on the other side? Or what if I don't like it? Am I burning a bridge? Could I go back? What if I screw up what I've got and it's irreversible? So there's a lot of angst when it comes to change, for sure.
Now, here's a question, and I'm going to personalize this because I don't know if you know much about me, but I was at the Calgary Herald for 35 years, right? And then it was laid off 7 years ago, right? And so hence a career change, a forced career change, right? I had a discussion with a former boss of mine, and he talked about security. He talked about how, no one has security, right? And his line that always stuck with me in my head was, the security you have is you, is what you can do, right? But is that, going back to that fear and anxiety thing, is that one of the issues that people have, that, hey, I've been working at this job for 20 years. I've got a secure job, right? And is that one of the things that holds them back?
100%. And by the way, I did look into your resume. It is very, very impressive for everyone out there.
Thank you.
There's a lot of awards and cool stuff on your LinkedIn, but definitely. And we have, like, personally, I've been there where I was in a job in my late 20s. I didn't like it at all, but I had a baby and I was married, and I went, I need this financial stability. And we see that a lot with people maybe coming back to school. We see that with new students, but it doesn't really matter the age. I've got something and it pays the bills and it's okay. And then that's where we find a lot of people start to really settle. Yeah. And maybe we feel that angst, that unhappiness, that desire for more inside of us that I think a lot of us have felt. And so that's where we come in as a school and we look at this data and we go, how can we help them kind of ease that anxiety and make that change? Because there's a lot of people that go, I'll even make less, but I can't not make anything. So if this doesn't work out, I'm in big trouble. And yes, that will hold us to things, even though we're unhappy with them, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at the different sectors and industries out there, Justin, what are some of the top sectors where you're seeing people making career changes?
Yeah, this one was interesting because there was some changes on there, and I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm just grabbing my notes. Because again, we're entrepreneurial city, oil and gas. Yeah. So generally what we see is a lot of people wanting to start their own business in Calgary. There's a big move towards the tech sector. Anything entrepreneurial is very interesting right now. But we also looked at some of the big numbers were construction in that field, personal services, hospitality, tourism, even manufacturing. So that as a school, we go, these may not be the typical people you think of coming into their MBA or their Master of Fine Arts, whatever masters might be next for them. And how can we make it, going back to the emotion, the fear, how can we make it very welcoming, going, you've got a ton of skills over here. And that doesn't mean you're coming in blind, because you've learned a lot of stuff and we can use that. So one example, we have a Master of Management that I'm the director of. This is a younger crowd, by the way, and it's for non-business students. But what happens is we take anyone with a non-business degree, and they have to be 3 years within their degree. So they're younger, but you can't have a business degree. And they're scared because they haven't taken finance, marketing, but not only that, a lot of them, if you come from maybe the tech world, you haven't public spoken, which you're going to do in every single class in my program. You haven't worked in a group, you're going to do it in every single class. And so there's a lot of fear. And we see students who have applied and made it a few years in a row, and yet turned it down because they were afraid.
Mm.
So it's actually giving them a window into the inside, going, look, all these other 100 students, they're the same. They have the same fears. They're in the same boat. None of them know finance. None of them have pitched in front of business advisors from downtown. So you're all there together. So it's making it more welcome and accessible, whether it's our DBA, our MBA, our EMBA, our undergrad program, that can really help with the fear.
And helping the career change itself. Can you talk a little bit about Haskayne? You mentioned a few of the programs there, but how can Haskayne facilitate someone who says, or I reach the point that I need a career change, right? And where does Haskayne fit into all this?
Yeah. And what I love about Haskayne is we're young, we're agile, we're very entrepreneurial. So I teach in the entrepreneurship department, but as a school, we're quite entrepreneurial. We're always looking at, okay, where are the trends? Where do we need to be? Where do we need to be to meet our customers? What does our customer discovery look like? So what we're seeing is that we have, so when the last class I taught in the MBA, I had two married couples. Weirdly enough, they sat right behind each other without knowing that in the first class, the first day. We had probably, I think, 7 babies born that semester. So it's reaching out to these students, these adults, where they're at in their lives, going, we can meet you there, we can fit you, whether it's part hybrid, whether it's only in the evenings, whether it's some day, some night, whether it's 3 years instead of a year and a half. We have a DBA, we have an EMBA, the new Master of Management. So we're going, okay, how can we meet these people where they are? So it's not so scary like in the olden day where you go, I have to quit and take 2 years off to get my MBA. Well, what if my old job's gone? What if I can't get a new job? Now we're going, how can we make this fit you? And our MBA has lots of paths. It's very flexible. And then we look at what you get out of it. So our 3 kind of pillars are real impact, deep connection, and lasting value. And the real impact, like when you take a class of mine, you are going to practice starting a business. You're going to pitch it in front of business people from downtown, and they might be big names. They might be, women you've seen maybe on TV. Like these are maybe scary people. And that real impact, the experiential learning, case competitions, work integrated learning, that we're learning our students want more of that. So co-op opportunities. We have an internship in my Master of Management program. We have a micro internship. You can work part-time in the evening and get paid to work with startups. So these real life experiences, but also the deep connections. Calgary's a small city that way. You're going to meet a lot of people, you're going to network, and you're going to find lots of people to open doors for you, and even amongst each other. And then lastly, that lasting value, if you're afraid of coming back to school and going, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life. Maybe I've worked here and I don't have training for anything else. That's where we sit down with you and we go, is it an MBA? Is it an EMBA? Is it a DBA? Is it a BCom? What's the best schooling for your situation?
All right. Thanks, Justin, for joining us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. That was Justin Knibbe, who is Director, Master of Management, and Assistant Professor, Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the Haskayne School of Business at the University of Calgary. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's podcast, Taking Care of Business. Thanks for joining us today.